Great. Okay. So maybe we'll just start then with sort of the broadest one. Why did you want to publish your ideas with contexts?
We wanted to publish with context because I think it's a format that strives to be really accessible but still rigorous. So I found articles from context to be immensely useful in classroom settings. And I think that the articles are digestible because they contain images, text breaks, they call attention to key quotations. All of those things are actually really important for pedagogy. And they challenge students to think about everyday things, things they never thought of before in sociological ways. So I think that context maintains a really good standard for that kind of scholarship.
Great.
So.
And so in your guys' article about sort of inequality and food consumption, I wonder if you could just kind of walk us through the main argument of that piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we start with the premise that grocery shopping is actually a site of everyday social practices that tells us a lot about racism and our economic system. So taking grocery shop as this kind of key site, our argument has two parts. So first, that we live in a system of capitalism that shapes a lot of our prevailing ideas about the world, namely something we call the ideology of consumption as freedom. And second, that this ideology conceals something more insidious, which is that our choices aren't, they don't tend to be real choices. Our ability to choose is actually very dependent on where and how we navigate a system of stark inequality. In particular, poverty and anti-Black racism prevents the poor, and especially poor Black folks, from choosing where they can go and what they can do.
Great. The last kind of thing to touch on, you kind of get to there at the end with just talking about the relevance of this to the broader public. You talked about some policy implications. I wonder if you could just touch on those sorts of things for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think so with something as necessary and relevant to life as food, it's obviously important that we interrogate all the ways that this system of racial capitalism shapes the way we eat, shapes our space and sense of place. Um, so there's policy implications there, but it's also not just about food, it's also about this ideology of choice in general. So the relevance, I think, of our argument is that we should all try to imagine other ways of thinking about freedom besides this. We should maybe think of freedom as the right to have what we need, food, health, our basic needs met, regardless of profit, right? Freedom as in liberation from systems of oppression, inequality, and exploitation.